Hey you guys, it's Miss Arneson, and I'm going to talk to you right now about color and color theory in art. This is one of the, in my opinion, one of the biggest deals in art. Um, and so we're going to spend quite a bit of time talking about it. You're going to need to take notes because you do need to know all these vocabulary words. So I'm going to put like little quizzes and stuff throughout so you can learn these vocabulary words. We also need to review some of the vocabulary words that we used in our last science or our last art class, which was 501. But color is going to make things a lot more complicated than lines and value do just by themselves. So let's go ahead and let me give you a personal introduction, some little facts about me and colors. So when I was little, my crayon box was like my favorite object that I owned. I really love crayons, and I really love coloring. And so I had my crayons organized, like some people just throw their crayons out on the ground. Oh no, that was not me. Like I had them in order, and you start with red because that's where the rainbow starts. You get to the blues, then you're obviously going to put black and white. Obviously, then you're going to put the browns. I just don't know how else to do it. No, I'm just kidding. But that's what I decided was the way it should be organized when I was little. And I also memorized all the crayons' names. So like you could take a crayon out and show me the color, and I would be like, oh yeah, that's Robin's egg blue. Like I could just tell you. They've changed the names of them now, so because I've tried to like have students quiz me, but now like the one that used to be called dandelion is called like mac and cheese or something. So I don't know the names anymore. But I now as an adult, I don't have, well, I do still have a million crayons, but I've moved up to a more expensive type of coloring, and I do my fingernails all the time, and I do nail art. So I actually have like about 350 colors of nail polish now, and that's how I get my color love into my life. So color is super important to me. I've always been really good at telling like what different colors are, if they go together, and I can even like mix colors pretty well. So like if you show me like I want this color, I can mix that out of paint like on my first or second try, which is pretty good because that's actually kind of hard. So it's one of my skills that I have that doesn't help me at all in life except when I'm an art teacher. Okay, so this element of art that we're going to talk about is color, and like I said, we're going to discuss a lot about it. The first thing I want to add or talk to you guys about when it comes to color is that color is an illusion. In a lot of ways, color isn't even real. And here's what I mean by that. So when you look at something, you aren't seeing the object itself, right? We're seeing light that is reflected off of that object. And depending on the color of light that's reflected off that object, we see different colors. So like when something looks red to us, like this flower, that's because it's absorbing all of the other colors of light, but it's reflecting the red light back to us. So what color is a flower like that looks red? Well, my brain and your brain, we can't really answer that question because we can't see what it's like without our with our illusion. There's in your eye, there's two kinds of cells that help you to like see things. There's these ones that are called cones. Cones help you to see color, and then rods help you to see light. So like you might have heard of somebody being colorblind. Well, one of their cells that are these cone cells that are supposed to detect color isn't working right. And so that's why they can't see the colors that are derived from that cone. So you might think there's like pink cones and there's purple cones and all the different colors, but we actually only have three types of cones in the human eye: green, red, and blue. And all the other colors that you see are some combination of those three colors together. So humans, we have three types of cones. So we can see as many colors as we can see. I think dogs have only two sets of cones. So dogs can see color, but they can't see the same colors as us. What does the world look like to a dog? We do not know because they have a different set of eye cells that are making the world look different to them. There are some organisms, plenty of organisms actually, that can see a lot more colors than us. So butterflies have more types of cones than we do. So butterflies can see colors that we can't even imagine because we don't have the right cells to even detect that light. So color is an illusion, and it's really a matter of perception. Like different people see colors different ways. So it's kind of an interesting like mystery because we're obsessed with color, like people are obsessed with skin color and people are obsessed with eye color, and it's all actually just an illusion that we kind of can see because it's how our brain is processing light, but other organisms would see it a different way. And can you even answer the question like, well, what is the actual color of something? No, you can only see what color of light is reflected off that object. So I don't know, I really love like trippy stuff like that, so that's why I'm telling you that information. Now let's get to the more artsy part of it. So what is color? We define color in art with a word called hue. That's H-U-E. And this is a color wheel that has basic colors on it. So we start here with yellow and it goes around all the way to 24. These are primary, tertiary, and quaternary colors that are on here. And we're going to discuss them in all of their basic, or in all of their, all the ways you can describe it. They actually have right here, they have some tints of the color that is up here as the base, and then they also have some tones of it that are mixed with black. So you can see a lot of different colors on here. And imagine like if you were a butterfly and you had 4 or 7 sets of cones, how many more colors you would see. This is just our human ability. And if you were a dog, you'd have less. So it's just another reason dogs aren't very cool. Sorry, I'm not a real dog person. Okay, so the primary colors are blue, yellow, and red. You need to write that down. What are the primary colors? What's important about them? We can make all the other colors out of the primary colors. So as long as you have black and as long as you have white, blue, red, and yellow, you can make any other color. If you've ever had a printer cartridge, like for your printer, or you've had to change those out, you'll notice they have cyan, they have cyan, magenta, and yellow as their colors. So the magenta is the red, the cyan is the blue, and then yellow is yellow. And printers and computers, they all use like 3 primary colors and then just put those up in different amounts so that you can see different colors based on the amounts of these different things that they're mixing. So that's kind of cool too. Okay, secondary and tertiary colors, and you can even get to quaternary colors, which would be like the 4th group. Primary colors are those basic colors of yellow, blue, and red. When you mix those, so like if we mix together, sorry, I was going to point at my screen, but you can't see that. If you mix together yellow and red, you get orange. If you mix together red and blue, you get purple. If you mix together blue and yellow, you get green. So basically just mixing these side by side is how you get the secondary colors, which are purple, green, and orange. Write those things down, that's important. Okay, we do not have to write down all of the tertiary colors because that would like take us a long time. But basically, if you find your basic colors, so I'm trying to find, I think this is like the basic red. Ugh, it's kind of hard to tell on the computer screen. So this basic red, no, this has got to be the basic red. Okay, so this is the basic red, and then if you mix red with orange, you get red-orange. If you mix red with violet, you get red-violet. And so these are the colors that you get when you mix the primary and the secondary colors that are next to each other. So you get like yellow, orange right there. And those are really important because like I personally would not want to live in a world with just these primary colors because my favorite color is purple and it's not even on here. So that's not cool with me. So it's nice that we can mix all these colors. So basically, like if you were going to go to the store today, and you were like, I'm going to buy some acrylic paint because I want to become an artist. I want to start painting. My suggestion to you would buy a color called magenta that they have because that's going to be way more like actual red. Sometimes the red is actual red, and a yellow and a blue and a white and a black, and then you can basically make all the colors that you need to. Now, one of the things that's not on here is brown and pink. Brown is not on here because brown is a mixture of colors that are across from each other. So like if we took complementary colors like yellow and purple and we mixed those together, that's when we would get brown. So across the color wheel, that's where you're going to get brown. The reason pink is not on here is because pink is going to be covered in another category of colors that are called tints. So let's keep moving on, but you do need to know the primary and the secondary colors. Like there will be a test question or a quiz question that will ask you about what are the primary colors, and it'll say blue, yellow, or you probably have to select all of them or something. So I just want you to know, you really need to know that. You really need to know also that orange, green, and purple are the secondary colors. Like I said, you don't have to know all of these. Cool thing though, one of our projects next week is going to be to paint our own color wheel. So we're going to mix paints at home. Normally you do that with acrylics, but we're going to do it with watercolors, and it'll still work, but it's just going to have to be a little different because like we're using watercolor. That's why. Okay, the color wheel is basically an arrangement of all of the colors. That's what you could put, arrangement of all of the colors in a certain order. So what you're going to have is you're going to have your basic blue, your basic red, and your basic yellow are going to make a triangle on the color wheel, and then you're going to fill in the secondary and the tertiary colors in between. We are going to make ourselves a color wheel. If you became an interior decorator, or you were going to be somebody that would work on picking out album artwork or something, you would definitely be familiar with the color wheel and color theory. So we're going to talk a lot about the components of this, but if you notice, it has the triangle right here. Those are going to give you certain colors, and then we also have right here, we have the I guess this is an equilateral triangle, and then this one would be some other kind of triangle, but I'm not a math person and I don't actually know what that one's called. But this one is giving you a different set of colors. So like if you were trying to figure out what colors would look good together, you can go with ones that are right across from each other, ones that are next to each other, or if you want to get like a little more complicated and interesting, then you can go based on these triangles from each other. So like you can turn, if you had one of these color wheels, this top piece turns so that you can see like what are the different colors that can go together. I think I didn't explain that very well. Okay, complementary colors. So this is the ones that are right across from each other on the color wheel. So that's what you need to write down. Complementary colors are right across from each other on the color wheel. So one of my favorite complementary color groups is Christmas, right? And it's not because I like am crazy about Christmas, but I do think that red and green go really well together. And honestly, I'm kind of mad that the only time you can put red and green together is like if you're making Christmassy colored things, because otherwise people think you mean a Christmassy colored thing. But red and green, if you check it out, they're right across from each other on the right here on the color wheel, and that is because they are complementary colors. They look good together even though they're not like right next to each other. So complementary colors, blue and yellow is a really common complementary color. There's also like blue and orange. So if you think of football teams, a lot of times the football team's colors are complementary. They're across from each other on the color wheel. I'm thinking of like, isn't the Dolphins like a turquoise and an orange? I mean, I don't know. I don't even care about sports. Las Montañas, we have blue and like a blue and burgundy. So our colors are not complementary, like they aren't. Neither are like Mayfield's colors. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, so split complementary colors. This is when you use a triangle to find your colors. So split complementary is when you use a triangle to find the colors. So right here, this is showing you red, blue, and green. And I don't know, when I look at this, like just these colors next to each other, like it almost hurts me. Like I hate it so much. I think it's like hideous. But these colors, when you put them in an artwork together, they actually do look really good. So here is one that has blue. So we got to find our blue. And if this is what we're across from, we're going to have the yellow, right? So this would be where one of our triangles fall. And then this darker orange over here. And this actually looks really awesome together. It gives it a lot of visual interest. So even though you might look at this, like right here, like yellow, magenta, and navy, I just would never put those together. But I bet if we made a painting of like an apple or something, this is kind of like, what's his name? Andy Warhol did paintings like this of Marilyn Monroe, where he mixed all of these split complementary colors together to make interesting portraits of famous people. Okay, and then we have analogous colors, and you do need to write this one down as well. Analogous ones are right next to each other on the color wheel. So they're right next to each other on the color wheel. Okay, so this is a Monet painting right here, and it uses analogous colors. I think it's probably this set right here where we have blue and green, maybe even just a little bit of this yellow green, so maybe more of this than this. But if you look, there's the differences in the colors here, they're not very much. They are like, they look close together. And if we look back at this one has a lot more action, a lot more activity. You're like, what's that girl thinking? I mean, I think it's a girl because of her eyebrow and her eyelashes. I don't know. Here you're like, oh, it doesn't matter what we're thinking. We're just enjoying the outdoors. It's beautiful and we're breathing and it's calm. There's probably little birds chirping. So analogous colors definitely give you a different feeling than ones that are far from each other on the color wheel. So this is part of color theory. So when somebody says color theory, they're not talking about like some fancy knowledge that you have to have. They're just saying like when you put different colors together, it makes different feelings in the viewer. Okay, warm and cool colors. So the color wheel can also be divided in half to where you say half of it is cool colors. Cool colors are blue based, so the blue is showing up a lot in these colors. And then we have the yellow and the red based colors, which are going to be warm. Warm and cool colors are not like super well defined all the time. Like you can get a blue based red lipstick. And that will look good on certain tones of skin, but sometimes you really need like an orange-based red lipstick to look good, and sometimes you need a true red. It just depends on your skin tone. So if it's not warm or cool, so if it's in the middle, then we call it neutral. You definitely need to make sure you know the difference between warm and cool, and neutral would be right in the middle where it's not warm or cool. Neutrals are usually going to have like a lot of white or a lot of gray or a lot of black in them because those are the neutral colors are black, gray, and white. Well, really black and white because when you mix them they make gray, right? So this example is showing you have like this tree with the blue sky behind it, and then you have the same picture, but in this one the artist has changed the color. So this isn't taken at two different times. This is the same picture, but depending on what the artist wants to do, they can make it look cool toned or they can make it look warm toned. Coolness is usually calmer. Warmness is usually going to have like more action happening in general, but that's not always true. The one painting that we looked at, the dominant colors on here are definitely warm, but it still has a lot of action. The dominant colors here are cool and they are pretty darn relaxing in that one. Okay, so now we get 3 more vocabulary words. Tints, tones, and shades. And I love this picture. Honestly, in your notes, if you just want to copy this picture and write like yellow, and then if you add white to yellow, you're going to get what's called a tint. So the reason pink wasn't on the color wheel earlier is because it is a tint of red. If you take pure red, you add white, you get a tint of it, and that is pink. So pink is not technically on the color wheel per se until you mix it with white. Okay, if you're getting a tone, then you're going to have gray mixed with the pure color. And if you're going to have a shade, then you're going to have a black mixed in with that normal, regular color. Your pure hue, right? Hue is H-U-E. That's a word, that's an art word for color. Okay, when we're putting together these different colors, we introduced this new word called palette, P-A-L-E-T-T-E. It is a French word. Anything that ends in E-T-T-E is like French-based. And a color palette is the group of colors you are using. So honestly, I would write that down as a vocabulary word. A palette is the group of colors you are using. So in this one, we basically have different values of green. And that would mean it's monochromatic. It only has one color. Mono and uno, they mean one. Okay, so we have one color, but we have mixed it with black to make shades, with gray to make tones, and with white to make tints. This is a really cool website that I found that will generate a palette for you. So you can kind of tell it what you want. This one I chose the selection tetrad, so it's gonna give me 4 colors that go together. You can also choose like the analogous colors that are right next to each other, and you could also choose split complementary on here. So this is a cool website if you want to go like just mess around on it for a second. These colors will create harmony in a room. There's balance in these colors, but there's also a good amount of contrast so that it could add visual interest. So if you're going to decide to paint your room or decorate your room, then you might look at one of these palettes and see what kind of colors would go together, depending on if you want it to be like more harmonious and have analogous colors, or if you want more contrast and visual interest. You can move the colors around, and you can also change their neutrality here in the middle. So it's pretty cool. I really like this website. It's fun for artsy fartsy people. Now let's look at some examples of artwork that are done with different colors. So of course this is a black and white photography. So here the colors that we have are those neutrals, black and white, and then we have those tones in between for value to give us all the shadows and such on this cathedral. Remember, on this part of the notes, you don't really have to write anything down. We're just looking at these for like to expand our artistic understandings. This is a cathedral in France called Rouen, and it is a subject of Monet that he painted a lot. So Monet is most famous for painting his landscapes, like his ponds and stuff. Like that's what he's really famous for. But he was pretty experimental in his time. Like he did a lot of things that most people were not doing, and he really wanted to figure out how to paint how something is in the moment rather than how it is forever. So he focused a lot on like temporary art. It was called Impressionism. You give a little impression of what you're doing at that time, or what you're seeing, what you're experiencing. And he's really actually one of the most important people that came up with that movement and like developed it. So he paints this cathedral at a lot of different times. Like he paints it over and over and over again. I only included like I think 5 versions of it in the slideshow, but there are many, many more. And it's because he wanted to see how different it is, how it feels different at different times of the day and in different types of weather. So let's look at it in another view. Okay, so here you can see like a lot of details here. But in Impressionism, where Claude Monet is working on this, his point is not to capture all the details. He wants to capture the moment. So this is in sunlight at sunset. So this is what he felt like he saw at that time of day when he made this painting. And just look at the differences between them. So this one has like kind of like some pink and blue tones in it. Or tints, sorry. Okay, here's another one. This one is my favorite because I just love foggy weather. And here it is in foggy weather. So it's like, even though this doesn't have as much detail as the original cathedral itself, this one has almost no detail because it's foggy. So he paints a picture of it as it is in the moment. And that's a really cool thing in art, because for most of art history, like you have people sitting there painting, and you if you're going to do a portrait, you have to have them sit there for like a really long time, and it takes forever for them to do the portrait, like several days you have to sit there because they're trying to get exactly how you look. But this is like how you look in one moment. So it's not trying to capture you in what's the word I'm thinking of? It'll come to me later, but I'm not thinking of it right now. Here's one in dull weather. I'm not sure what dull weather means. To me that means like kind of warm and muggy, but I don't know what it means to Monet. So this one's got a lot more grays in it. Here it is in the evening, and he's calling it harmony. So this is like a nice time. It's much more warm than the previous ones were. And I think there's one more. Oh no, just kidding. So I only showed you 4, but there's a lot more. You can look up these. It's kind of interesting to flip through them all and just see how Claude Monet was feeling about what it looked like on that day when he was painting it really fast. So, okay, so here's another look at color. This one has kind of like a whole entire color palette on it. If you look everywhere, you're going to capture almost all the colors of the color palette. But the point of this one is a lot more lively than this one, right? This is like calming. This one has a lot more action. It's got complementary colors in it. This is Henri Matisse. We've seen some of his work before. He is a French person as well. Okay, so this, I don't know. These are funny. So Kandinsky, he always does weird stuff. I like it, and I feel like he's very original. in some ways I'm kind of like, well, I could do that, but I don't think I could come up with this. Like, could I copy it? Sure, but this is what he came up with out of his mind, and it's called Sea Battle. So I just really enjoy it. I don't, if you're thinking of the ocean, you'd be like, well, we've got to have a lot of like blue in there, right? But there's a lot of red and a whole bunch of other colors. So I'd like to look up the history on this painting. I don't know very much about it. Okay, so here is much more realistic colors, right? So those other ones that we've looked at so far, they're not really painting things how they are permanently. They're painting them how they are in a moment. But here we have, like, of course, this greenery is very green. We've got this cave kind of looking place called Grotto on a Rocky Landscape, oil on paper. One thing you guys are going to learn about the different types of paint is that oil paint is really nice because it takes a long time to dry, so you can keep mixing things and adding it together. Watercolor dries pretty fast, and acrylic also dries pretty fast. So once you put it on there, you can't really change it. But oil paintings, you can get a lot of detail because you can just keep moving the paint and it'll still do what you want. Okay, so here's one that's I don't know, is this like before a storm or is this like a calming evening? It says cloud study, but I like this one because it's ambiguous. You can't really tell. Like, it definitely has cool colors, but there's like this warm sunshine coming through, and it seems like it's right on the cusp. Like, it could be a storm coming, or it could be like after the storm when the sun's coming back out. And I like that you can't really tell which one it is. Okay, so here is a color palette that is almost all in neutrals. There's like this one little red here in the middle of her brooch, but I like that this is almost all neutrals. It still has a ton of visual interest because of his painting technique. But this color palette, imagine how different it looks if you're showing all the colors that you've used in a painting. Imagine how different this one would look than, say, this one right here, or this one. So color palettes really can be all over the place. It's just what your preference is. Okay, another thing about color that's kind of cool is sometimes you can read the story of a painting based on the colors that are used in it. So I know this because I've studied art a lot. But in any religious painting, Mary, the mother of Jesus, is going to be wearing blue. And so we can tell here that this is her. You can also tell because it says the adoration of the shepherds. So, of course, that's a Bible story, right? So here's the little baby Jesus. But colors can be really, really important in paintings. You just have to learn the history. Like, why is she always in blue? I don't remember why. I remember learning why, but there's a reason. And so when you look at paintings, you can interpret them for that. Okay, so this is the last image of this group. This is a Sphinx, the Great Sphinx of Giza. It's in Egypt. We know, of course, that the Egyptians were kind of obsessed with an afterlife, so they built all kinds of different things. Like, basically all of their art is religious art, and that's really honestly how most ancient art is. Ancient art is some of my favorite, though, because I love looking at things that somebody made so long ago, and they can still speak to me here in 2020. It's pretty cool. And we know that the pyramids and the Sphinx used to be painted. So, of course, that paint has gone to weathering and erosion by now, just like the Sphinx's nose. But we know that they used to have color on them. So color has been really important to humans throughout most of history because it tells us when fruits and vegetables are ripe and what time of day it is, and just so much information from colors that we're kind of color obsessed. So that was all for this one. Make sure you took those notes because the next thing you have to do is take a little quiz on the color words. So you can, of course, use your notes, but you want to try to get those words in your brain as much as you can. All right, guys, bye!